fight. I think he's like any other young up-and-coming boxer. It's just
The biggest fight in boxing history just happened between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. This fight alone pulled in massive streams across multiple platforms, especially Netflix, earning the title of the most streamed sporting event in history. While many anticipated this showdown, the outcome was, to say the least, unexpected. Podcasters like Joe Rogan have already taken to their channels to discuss this unforgettable moment in television history, and to reveal surprising facts about Mike Tyson that the public never knew. So, what did Rogan expose? Join us as we get into all the details. The showdown. Mike Tyson has long been considered as one of the greatest boxers of all time, his name equating with unrelenting power and undeniable dominance in the ring. Yet despite his storied career, much about Tyson's private life remains a mystery. But all that is about to change, thanks to recent revelations by none other than UFC commentator Joe Rogan, who has shed light on some truly surprising things on Tyson's life and career. What Rogan shared has well left head turning and tongues wagging. Curious to find out what he shared? Keep watching. Earlier this month, something really interesting happened. The boxing world was stunned when Tyson, now 58, returned to the ring in a highly anticipated bout against YouTuber-turned-boxer Jake Paul. The fight took place at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, home to the Dallas Cowboys, in front of a roaring crowd of 70,000 fans. It was also streamed live on Netflix, marking a truly groundbreaking moment as the platform ventured into live sports broadcasting for the first time. Now, despite being 30 years older than his opponent and stepping back into professional boxing after nearly 2 decades away, Tyson entered the fight with as much determination as he could possibly muster. Despite the determination, it was Jake Paul who ultimately emerged victorious, claiming a unanimous decision after 8 grueling 2-minute rounds. The fight was a spectacle watched by millions around the world, but its outcome left fans deeply divided. Tyson, who had not fought since his defeat to Kevin McBride in 2005, managed just 18 punches throughout the fight, while Paul controlled much of the action. Although there were moments when Tyson showed glimpses of the unstoppable force he once was, his age and years away from the ring seemed to catch up with him in the later rounds. The fight's aftermath was met with a lot mixed reactions as well as speculations. While some hailed Paul's performance as evidence of his legitimacy as a boxer, others questioned whether Tyson, given his age and long absence from the sport, should have been in the ring at all. But more on the mixed reactions and speculations later on in the video. UFC commentator Joe Rogan weighed in on this during a recent episode of his Joe Rogan Experience podcast, where he was joined by guest Josh Brolin. Rogan admitted that he had rooted for Tyson to knock Paul out, sharing his initial concerns about Tyson's physical well-being. Rogan said he was glad Tyson got to fight and didn't get hurt, but a part of Rogan was hoping Tyson would knock Jake Paul out, because that just seemed like the perfect Cinderella story. Rogan, despite the fact that he supports Tyson, said he doesn't have anything against Jake Paul because the guy is a legit boxer making insane amounts of money. Paul, for his part, maintained control throughout the fight and opted not to aggressively pursue a knockout. In a show of respect, he bowed to Tyson at the final bell, as a respect. But this loss for Tyson marked the 7th of his career, adding to a record that includes 5 defeats by knockout and 1 through disqualification. Despite this loss, we can still say that Tyson's legacy remains grounded, with an impressive 50 career wins, 44 of which came by knockout. Meanwhile, Jake Paul celebrated his 11th career victory, with 7 wins by knockout, his only loss being a decision against Tommy Fury in February 2023. Brolin, in the podcast, joked that he found the fight amazing, prompting Rogan to dive into its financial implications. According to Rogan, the event was a financial blessing for both fighters, with payouts rumored to be $20 million and $40 million respectively, though Rogan didn't specify which fighter received which amount. In the podcast, Rogan said that he thinks it's really amazing that they got paid so much money for the fight. Rogan also expressed relief that Tyson's return to the ring did not result in any significant injury. This was really a genuine concern, given the physical toll the sport can take on the body, especially at Tyson's age. Despite the loss, Tyson's return to the ring brought some excitement and nostalgia of his prime. However, as the dust settled, whispers of controversy started. Some fans have begun to speculate that the fight may have been rigged, pointing to Tyson's limited offense and Paul's measured approach as evidence. These claims, though unsubstantiated, only added to the mystery surrounding the event. Now let's take a closer look at these speculations and where they stemmed from. Speculations of the match being scripted. Was Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson scripted? This was the one question on everyone's mind after watching the match. For many eager fans, the match was rather disappointing, and this was obvious in the arena as boos echoed instead of praises. Fans were visibly angered with what was unfolding, and as the match continued on, many left before the final scores were even announced. But it wasn't just the audience that was confused. Speculation grew louder and obvious about the authenticity of the fight. While everyone expected a spectacle, many began to believe that something wasn't quite right with the way the fight played out. The age gap between the two fighters, 58-year-old Tyson versus the 27-year-old Jake Paul, was always going to be a point of contention. But did it explain the strange outcome? One of the most notable reactions came from Joe Rogan, who openly voiced his thoughts on the match. However, before we get to his take, let's rewind to the lead-up to the fight. Everyone knew it was a big deal, with millions watching worldwide, but the actual fight left many fans feeling deflated and even frustrated. The pre-fight hype was overwhelming, yet the bout itself felt lackluster for a fighter of his legendary status. This was a shocking display of decline. In hindsight, perhaps we shouldn't have been so surprised. After all, Mike Tyson is no longer in his prime, and Jake Paul, despite being a relatively new boxer, has been in better form in recent years. However, for those hoping for a miracle, the result was a reality check that age catches up with everyone. Tyson's legend couldn't save him from his body's limitations. But let's face it, things could have been worse. Imagine if Tyson had lost by knockout, which many feared might happen due to the way the match was progressing. But luckily, that didn't happen. Joe Rogan, always one to give his raw opinion on big events, was one of the most vocal proponents of Tyson before the match. He was openly rooting for the former heavyweight champion, but he remained skeptical about Tyson's ability to overcome the much younger Paul. Prior to the fight, Rogan had tweeted that he was getting ready to watch this Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, like he is watching someone cast a spell that he hopes actually works. He also added that he doesn't really believe in magic, but he wants to believe. As the match went on, it became clear that Rogan's hopes were misplaced. When Jake Paul won via unanimous decision, Rogan took to X, formerly Twitter, to reply to his own post, saying, "Magic isn't real." It was a sobering moment for many who had wished for the impossible. Regardless of whether the fight was scripted or not, the outcome was still hard to digest for some, especially those who had been cheering for Tyson. The fact that Tyson didn't get knocked out might have been the only saving grace for his reputation. The speculation that the fight might have been scripted only intensified when social media erupted with clips showing a different version of Mike Tyson from what fans saw in the actual match. Prior to the fight, Tyson had been posting videos of his intense training routine and physical transformation. These clips showed a much sharper and faster version of Tyson, leading many fans to question why he looked so different during the fight itself. After watching Tyson's sparring videos, some fans started speculating that the fight might have been rigged. Tyson looked incredibly fast and powerful in the clips, moving smoothly, but nothing like what was seen in the actual fight. The contrast led many to question if the match was ever meant to be a true competition. The suspicions didn't even stop with the fans, as some even began to speculate that both Tyson and Jake Paul were aware of this, and went along with it purely for the financial rewards and publicity it brought them. The overwhelming success of the event only added fuel to the fire, making it hard for some to see the fight as anything other than a spectacle used for maximum attention and revenue. One user suggested that Mike Tyson simply wanted to cash the check, without actually engaging in a serious fight. This theory was further supported by some fans who believed the whole fight was a marketing stunt orchestrated by Netflix. Regardless of the conspiracy theories, one thing was clear: the fighters walked away with huge sums of money. While fans might have felt shortchanged by the lackluster fight, Jake Paul and Mike, the massive paydays only added fuel to the fire of speculation about the authenticity of the match. Several big names in the sports world have even begun questioning the legitimacy of the event. Oscar de la Hoya, a Hall of Famer, took to social media to share his thoughts on the controversial Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. He didn't hold back, calling the fight staged and even suggesting that Tyson was deliberately held back. De La Hoya's comments hit hard with fans who were already skeptical, as his credibility as a seasoned fighter added weight to the ongoing speculation. He went further, accusing Jake Paul of essentially buying the win to pad his record. De La Hoya openly questioned Paul's ambitions in the sport, challenging the younger fighter to prove himself against real opponents. The criticism not only intensified the debate about the fight's legitimacy, but also raised questions about Paul's future in boxing, and how far he's willing to go to earn respect in the ring. Paul himself didn't help the situation when he admitted during the post-match press conference that he definitely eased off the gas in the third round. He said, "I wanted to give the fans a show, but I didn't want to hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt." This comment immediately raised further doubts about the legitimacy of the fight, with some questioning whether Paul was intentionally holding back to ensure Tyson didn't suffer too much damage. In response to the growing rumors and allegations, Jake Paul's promotional company, Most Valuable Promotions, MVP, defended the fight and its outcome. The company issued a statement denying that the fight was rigged or scripted. There were absolutely no restrictions, contractual or otherwise, around either fighter, the statement read. MVP co-founder Nakisa Badarian also came to Paul's defense, stating that from the very beginning, people had doubted Paul's abilities, given his unconventional entry into the sport. Badarian emphasized that Jake has not only proven himself repeatedly, but he has continuously set historic records that speak for themselves. He added that the constant doubt surrounding Paul's career only made him work harder and prove his critics wrong. However, despite these denials, the whispers of a staged event persisted, particularly in the wake of Paul's comments about not wanting to hurt Tyson. Was the fight scripted? Whether it was or not, one thing is certain. The match was a major talking point in the world of combat sports. The reactions, the controversies, and the financial gains from the match have kept people talking long after the final bell. As theories continue to snake its rounds, they inevitably bring up the legacy of Mike Tyson. Background. On Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is among the legends of boxing, alongside Muhammad Ali and Floyd Mayweather. However, the story of the man's life is one of the most incredible, fascinating, and truly disturbing stories in the entire world of sport. It is a story with monumental highs and devastating lows. Michael Gerard Tyson was born in Brooklyn, New York, in June of 1966. As a child, he endured a particularly difficult start to life, both in his upbringing and surroundings. He never knew his biological father, Purcell Tyson, and his stepfather, Jimmy Kirkpatrick, abandoned the family when Tyson was just 2 years of age. After his stepfather left, Tyson's mother moved the family to 178 Amboy Street in Brownsville on the eastern side of Brooklyn. Brownsville was renowned for being the murder capital of New York. It was here that Tyson's life would descend into a murky world of crime and rebellion. As a timid and pudgy kid with a lisp and glasses, in one of the roughest areas in the country, it was either fight back or fade away. And Tyson chose to fight. When he was 10, Tyson joined a local gang called the Jolly Stompers, who, despite the name, weren't quite as friendly as they sounded. By 11, he'd already been introduced to acid and cocaine. He'd also been arrested more than 30 times before he was even a teenager. Given the start to life that Tyson had and the things he saw growing up, it is perhaps unsurprising that he meandered towards a life of crime. However, things took an incredible turn when he was sent to a juvenile center in upstate New York. In 1981, a 12-year-old Tyson was sent to Tryon School for Boys in upstate New York. Either by luck or good fortune, a certain Bobby Stewart was offering boxing lessons to inmates of the juvenile center. The same Bobby Stewart who fought at light heavyweight, on the undercard of The Rumble in the Jungle in 1974. Clearly believing he had an incredible talent on his hands, Stewart reached out to legendary boxing manager Cus D'Amato, who had led people like Jose Torres and Floyd Patterson to world titles. D'Amato immediately took Tyson under his wing, eventually adopting him and moving him into his family home after his mother died. Teddy Atlas and Kevin Rooney were brought in to oversee training, and a young Tyson became infatuated with the sport, watching old boxing videos religiously, learning the tricks of the trade from legends of a bygone era. By late 1981, still just 15 years of age, Tyson had already become World Junior Olympic champion, knocking out Joe Cortez inside 8 seconds. A record, by the way, which still stands today. With the help of his new team, he'd learned to channel the anger and frustration from his childhood and turn it into controlled yet frightening aggression in the ring. In the early 1980s, the self-proclaimed baddest man on the planet embarked on a mastodonic rampage, tearing through the heavyweight division and obliterating all manner of opponents. But it was in Albany, New York, that Mike Tyson made his debut as a professional boxer. On March 6, 1985, at the age of 18, he faced Hector Mercedes. He demolished him in a single round. His speed, strength, and defensive skills worried his opponents, who feared his punches. He had this exceptional ability to knock out his opponents in a single round. This earned him the nickname Iron Mike. By the late 1980s, Mike Tyson had undoubtedly written his name into boxing folklore. Many believed him to be the hardest-hitting heavyweight of all time, and on the surface, he seemed to be relishing the life of luxury which his sporting talents had provided. That year was filled with success, until another tragedy struck him. The death of his coach, adoptive father, and confidant, Cus D'Amato. D'Amato died of pneumonia on November 4, 1985. Although Tyson resumed fighting less than 2 weeks later, under the guidance of Kevin Rooney, those close to him said he never recovered from this loss, and that his aggressive behavior stemmed from this grief. This first fight, held in Houston, was dedicated to D'Amato. Tyson recorded his 13th knockout. After the death of D'Amato, rumors of increased cocaine and alcohol abuse were rampant, and it turned out very much true. His new promoter and manager would fuel the darker side of Tyson's personality, encouraging partying, drugs, alcohol, and women. In 1990, a year after his messy divorce from Robin Givens, Tyson would suffer his first defeat in the ring, a relatively one-sided clash with James "Buster" Douglas, which genuinely shocked the world. Tyson signed a partnership with boxing promoter Don King that same year in hopes of bouncing back. However, his increasingly violent behavior caused him legal troubles. He was accused of street fighting, drug-related accidents, insults, and rape. In early 1989, his divorce from Robin Givens was finalized, and he returned to the ring to defend his world titles. He first won against British fighter Frank Bruno by knockout in the 5th round, and in the 1st round against Carl "The Truth" Williams. However, on February 11, 1990, Mike Tyson's invincibility ended in Japan, where he lost his belts to Buster Douglas. For the first time in his career, Mike was knocked out in the 10th round. This defeat affected him, but he eventually knocked out his former rival Henry Tillman, an Olympic gold medalist, and Alex Stewart in the opening round. During this rather difficult period, Mike won some fights impressively, eventually leading to his next face-off, with the one who was supposed to take his titles away, Evander Holyfield. However, Mike failed in the Buster Douglas confrontation. As a result, Holyfield faced Douglas and won the 1990 heavyweight title, becoming the undefeated heavyweight champion. Following that, he was imprisoned in 1992 for a period of 6 years. While serving his sentence, he converted to Islam and adopted the name Malik Abdul Aziz. His father passed away during his first year of incarceration, but the boxer did not request to attend the funeral. 3 years later, he was released on March 25, 1995, and immediately he returned to the practice of boxing, fighting Peter McNeely in Las Vegas, winning this first match in 89 seconds. Following this victory, he also defeated Buster Mathis Jr. in the 3rd round. After this difficult period, Tyson attempted to put his life back in order. On November 9, 1996, Mike faced Holyfield again to reclaim the heavyweight title. However, Tyson lost by knockout in the 11th round, despite being the favorite. Holyfield became the second boxer in history to win the heavyweight championship 3 times. In his defense, Tyson claimed he was the victim of several illegal headbutts from Holyfield. He promised to take revenge. After this defeat, Mike trained intensively for his rematch on June 28, 1997. The fight was broadcast on pay-per-view, breaking its sales record, about 2 million viewers, and both boxers received a record amount for this bout, making them the 2 highest-paid boxers in professional boxing history until 2007. The first 2 rounds of this fight were filled with action, much to the delight of the audience. But in the 3rd round, an unexpected action from Mike shocked his fans. He bit Holyfield's ear, biting off a piece. A disgraceful scene for the boxing world. Tyson stated that this retaliation was a response to the headbutts previously delivered by Holyfield in their previous fight. However, the judges chose to disqualify Tyson from the match. Worse still, his boxing license was revoked, and he had to pay a $3 million fine. Deprived of boxing, Mike Tyson found himself without goals or objectives to achieve. Hardships followed again, including new legal troubles and accidents. He was hospitalized following a motorcycle accident. The result, a punctured lung and a broken rib. Tyson finally regained his license in October 1998, although he had to serve a 9-month prison sentence. He made his true return to the ring in 2002 against the ZBC, IBO, and IBF champion, Lennox Lewis. After numerous altercations and threats between the 2 boxers, Tyson eventually lost this fight by knockout. Finally, Mike Tyson announced his retirement from the ring in 2005 after several defeats in the previous 3 years. After retiring, Tyson battled substance abuse and legal issues but eventually turned his life around. He became a media personality, appearing in films like The Hangover and creating his Broadway show, Mike Tyson, Undisputed Truth. He also launched Tyson Ranch, a cannabis business, and started the podcast Hotboxing with Mike Tyson. Through these ventures, Tyson reinvented himself, showcasing resilience and transforming his legacy beyond the boxing ring. What do you think of the speculations surrounding the fight? Do you think the match was actually staged, or do you believe otherwise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.